Good morning, wonderful people. Man, I was about to go into the gym and I got whacked in the spirit. I couldn't get out the car. I've been here for like an hour meditating on what the Lord was showing me. I couldn't get out the car. Usually when that happens, he said, that's my cue, to hop on here. It's not always, I don't always plan these things or take notes, or when God falls on me, I say it. But to somebody out there, God has a place for you.
Then the mother of Zebedee's sons approached him with her sons. She knelt down to ask him for something. "What do you want?" he asked her. "Promise," she said to him, "that these 2 sons of mine may sit, one on your right and the other on your left, in your kingdom." Jesus answered, "You don't know what you're asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I am about to drink?" "We are able," they said to him. He told them, "You will indeed drink my cup, but to sit at my right and left is not mine to give. Instead, it is for those for whom it has been prepared by my Father." When the 10 disciples heard this, they became indignant with the 2 brothers. Jesus called them over and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those in high positions act as tyrants over them. It must not be like that among you. On the contrary, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first among you must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. So the last will be first, and the first last."
God has a place for you. The last will be first and the first will be last. So in the Bible, when a son was adopted into the family, even though he was born into the family by blood, there was a certain age of maturity through the process where he would partake of the inheritance from the father. So when he reached maybe 12 or 13, when he started understanding responsibility, when he started being able to do his duties, when he was able to be trusted with things, the father would adopt his own son into the family. Because before that, if the father died, the son couldn't handle the inheritance because he wasn't mature enough, he wasn't ready. So they will wait until the son reached the age of maturity before he was able to partake in the inheritance.
For all those led by God's Spirit are God's sons. For you did not receive a spirit of slavery to fall back into fear. Instead, you received the Spirit of adoption, by whom we cry out, "Abba, Father." The Spirit himself testifies together with our spirit that we are God's children. And if children, also heirs, heirs of God and co-heirs with Christ, if indeed we suffer with him, so that we may also be glorified with him.
God has a place for you. Don't think that your process has been in vain. Don't think that your suffering has been in vain. Don't think that your sacrifice has been in vain. Don't think that what you've been through has been in vain. God is intentional.
The Lord said to me, "You have seen correctly, for I watch over my word to accomplish it."
He watches over his word to perform it, and all things work together for the good of those who love him, who are called to his eternal purpose. That's Romans 8:28.
Don't let your heart be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I am going to prepare a place for you? If I go away and prepare a place for you, I will come again and take you to myself, so that where I am, you may be also. You know the way to where I am going.
When Jesus told the disciples, "I'm going away. I'm going away," and they were grieved. It was like, "No, Master, don't go." He said, "No, I gotta go. I'm going to prepare a place for you." And that's what he meant. They weren't understanding that they were being adopted into sonship. And when you become a son, you have a right to the Father's inheritance, and that's everything.
For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also.
Where a man buries his heart, his treasure will also be. So when our heart is with God, our treasure is with God. We can have and we can do anything.
Now to him who is able to do above and beyond all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us. Jesus said to him, "If you can, everything is possible for the one who believes."
And also our heart and our will and our goals, our morals, our character will align with his because our heart is with him. So he can then trust us with everything he has because our heart is with him. And that's why he gives us his treasure. So we can take that treasure and give it to other people. So we can take that treasure and be it for other people because we've matured.
You ask and don't receive because you ask with wrong motives, so that you may spend it on your pleasures.
We stepped out of self. We stepped out of our selfish ambition or our desire to store up earthly treasures. Now we have the treasure of heaven, and we become givers. We become living sacrifice, like Jesus. So there's a place for you. God has prepared a place for you. In my Father's house, there are many rooms. Many rooms. Why? Because we're a family. And as we reach that age of maturity, we are adopted as sons and daughters. But for the sake of the video and what it says in the Bible, son just means a relationship. So you can be a man or a woman, son or a daughter. Let's not split hairs. But God has a place for you. Jeremiah 29:11 even says it. It's the verse of the day yesterday. For I know the thoughts and the plans that I have for you, to prosper you, to give you a hope in the future, not to harm you. See, the harm doesn't come from God. The process, the enemy wants to sift us like wheat. So he'll bring these circumstances in our life when we start pursuing God more and we climb up that mountain.
You planned evil against me. God planned it for good, to bring about the present result, the survival of many people.
But God will work that for our good. So the enemy overplays his hand. He actually is a signpost to our next breakthrough, or a signpost to where God has called us to.
A thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come so that they may have life and have it in abundance.
Because the enemy, he's rooted in pride. So he thinks that he can do anything to us and we not know what's happening.
My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I will reject you from serving as my priest, so that we may not be taken advantage of by Satan. For we are not ignorant of his schemes.
No, but your warfare, your process is all telling you exactly where you're going. Even when I started this channel, the devil tried to tell me, oh, nobody's going to listen. I had a lot of religious Pharisees and traditional people get upset.
They will ban you from the synagogues. In fact, a time is coming when anyone who kills you will think he is offering service to God. This people honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me, holding to the form of godliness, but denying its power. Avoid these people.
Even when God called me to Hollywood, a lot of religious people got upset. A lot of Pharisees came and they, start trying to tear down what God was building in my life, trying to kill me, thinking they were doing God a favor. But I looked to my warfare to see where God was taking me next. And then when I pressed into God and I got the answer from him, not people's opinions or what they say or what they think they know. God elevated me completely across the country during COVID. It was only God.
No weapon formed against you will succeed. And you will refute any accusation raised against you in court. This is the heritage of the Lord's servants, and their vindication is from me. This is the Lord's declaration. The one who digs a pit will fall into it, and whoever rolls a stone, it will come back on him.
So the enemy in your warfare will be a signpost to your next breakthrough. Your process is preparing you for something greater. There's a place for you. Now, the proximity of the blessing.
Then Moses and Aaron fell face down in front of the whole assembly of the Israelite community. Joshua son of Nun and Caleb son of Jephunneh, who were among those who scouted out the land, tore their clothes and said to the entire Israelite community, "The land we passed through and explored is an extremely good land. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will bring us into this land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and give it to us. Only don't rebel against the Lord, and don't be afraid of the people of the land, for we will devour them. Their protection has been removed from them, and the Lord is with us. Don't be afraid of them."
The proximity of the blessing. So God will always give you a preview of what he's going to do in your life next. That comes for, either judgment of the world or correction to our life to show us where we're going.
Then the man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden at the time of the evening breeze. And they hid from the Lord God among the trees of the garden. So the Lord God called out to the man and said to him, "Where are you?"
Because he's a father, he leads, he guides, and he directs us. The righteous man's footsteps are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in our way. He takes pleasure in our way. Why? Because we are made in his image and his likeness, so therefore he wants us to look like him.
There's nothing better for a person than to eat, drink, and enjoy his work. I have seen that even this is from God's hand, because who can eat and who can enjoy life apart from him? For to the person who is pleasing in his sight, he gives wisdom, knowledge, and joy. But to the sinner, he gives the task of gathering and accumulating in order to give to the one who is pleasing in God's sight. This too is futile and a pursuit of the wind. A good man leaves an inheritance to his grandchildren, but the sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous.
So when we get the glory in our life, he gets the glory in heaven because we're going to glorify him. So your footsteps are ordered, and there's blessings in your proximity. What do I mean by this? Before I was brought out to Hollywood, my steps started being orchestrated to people coming around me that were already doing these things, actors, entertainers, people in Hollywood. I was bartending at the time in Nashville, and I would get like actors come in, or I would work these events and I would see these actors, and they were being brought into my proximity. Now, at the time, I didn't know this, but looking back in hindsight, God was showing me ahead of time, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. The blood of the Lamb means that we're covered. We have covenant. The word of our testimony is Jesus died to give us everything. Where a man's heart is, his treasure will also be.
A person's steps are established by the Lord, and he takes pleasure in his way.
So the 12 spies went out. 10 came back with a negative report, hardened heart. 2 came back with a good report, and they also brought back spoils.
But the way of the wicked is like the darkest gloom. They don't know what makes them stumble. My son, pay attention to my words. Listen closely to my sayings. Don't lose sight of them. Keep them within your heart. For they are life to those who find them, and health to one's whole body. Guard your heart above all else, for it is the source of life.
They seen what was going on, and they brought back that report. Before I came to Hollywood, when I was still living in Nashville, I was booked from Nashville, and they flew me out to Hollywood to do a TV show. And when I got here, I stayed here for about a month, and just being here and seeing the surroundings and driving around, I knew it was going to be my home. Now, this was 2000, probably like 17. Yes, probably 2017. I knew when I seen it, I had this, my spirit was leaping. I knew in my heart that this would eventually be my home. And then I ended up moving out here in 2019 during COVID when the world was shut down. So nothing can stay God's hand. Nothing can stop God's plan for your life. Not a person, not a pandemic. Nothing can stop God's plan for your life. He is in control, and he's sovereign. God, he holds all things together.
He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For everything was created by him, in heaven and on earth, the visible and the invisible, whether thrones or dominions, or rulers or authorities. All things have been created through him and for him. He is before all things, and by him all things hold together. He is also the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, so that he might come to have first place in everything. For God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in him, and through him to reconcile everything to himself, whether things on earth or things in heaven, by making peace through his blood shed on the cross.
But When I came out here for the TV show the first time, I understood that God was showing me a preview once I was here, because he started speaking to me about, this is where you're going to live, this is where you're going to be. When I said yes, he started giving me the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to see where he was directing me. So from that experience, I now see where I am in my life in this season, and I see the things that he's bringing around me now. And as we go from faith to faith to glory to glory, faith to faith and glory to glory, as it is in 2 Corinthians 3:18, for we all with an unveiled face as in a mirror are seeing the image of the Lord, as we are progressively being transformed from one degree of glory to even more glory, which comes from the Lord, which is a spirit. We're taken from glory to glory. Jesus did that. He went from the wilderness to his ministry. And our promises over our life, what God puts in us, the things that he does for us, it's not for us, it's for other people. The anointing is for other people. The indwelling is for us. So we are indwelled with the Holy Spirit to fix our junk. And then we are anointed when we are broken, when we're pressed, when we're crushed. It produces oil and wine to go out and do things and be that for other people.
The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to set free the oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor.
That's what the place is for.
You are the light of the world. A city situated on a hill cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket, but rather on a lampstand, and it gives light for all who are in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven.
That's why we're in the Father's mansion, to do for other people. And that's the maturity level that we reach when we're adopted into the family, when we understand that. And then God can start working on us and sending us out into the harvest. We're not just sitting on our hands, just talking.
Therefore, be imitators of God as dearly loved children.
Those who are doers of the word are those who are going to reap the harvest.
But be doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. Because if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like someone looking at his own face in a mirror. For he looks at himself, goes away, and immediately forgets what kind of person he was. But the one who looks intently into the perfect law of freedom and perseveres in it is not a forgetful hearer, but a doer who works. This person will be blessed in what he does. He told them, the harvest is abundant, but the workers are few. Therefore, pray to the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into his harvest.
Those who hear the word and not do it is like a man who looks in the mirror, and when he walks away, he immediately forgets what he looks like. So that's what's happening right now in this time and season we're in. You're starting to see a separation from people who are talkers and doers, wheat and the tares. Like people who really love God and people who try to serve God for, some kind of gain or material thing, or some kind of petition or title. See, you can't really go through the process with God and it be about a material thing, because once you start getting crushed and those things are removed and those comfort mechanisms and those things that you put before God start disappearing, you're going to fall away from God.
They went out from us, but they did not belong to us. For if they had belonged to us, they would have remained with us. However, they went out so that it might be made clear that none of them belongs to us.
So that's the test. But God has a place for you because you passed it faithfully. Now, the blessing of proximity.
Joshua said to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and half the tribe of Manasseh, remember what Moses the Lord's servant commanded you when he said, the Lord your God will give you rest, and he will give you this land. Your wives, dependents, and livestock may remain in the land Moses gave you on this side of the Jordan. But your best soldiers must cross over in battle formation ahead of your brothers and help them until the Lord gives your brothers rest, as he has given you, and they too possess the land the Lord your God is giving them. You may then return to the land of your inheritance and take possession of what Moses the Lord's servant gave you on the east side of the Jordan.
So God had gave Israel the land. Joshua and Caleb were going to go and take the land that they saw. God told them to get all your warriors together, and you're going to go in and dispossess the giants, and then your brothers are going to follow you in. So in your proximity, God will put people who's already doing what he's going to have you doing. He's going to place you where they are. You're getting a preview. Those people have fought the battles. They've slayed those giants, and now they're positioned in that place in their life, and they're showing it to you, and God's saying, you're next. You're next. So hardened heart is very, very important, because if not, you'll try to kill the people that's sent to bless you. And that's happening, like I say, it's happening a lot now in the body of Christ. More people are getting offended by the people who are being blessed by God than understanding, oh, this is the promised land. This is the warriors that God has sent in to slay the giants, and they're going to open the door for us. That's why you have to pray for your enemies, those who exalt themselves against the knowledge of God over your life. Those are your enemies. They may look like Christians, but when they speak against God's plan for your life, they become God's enemy by choice.
You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be children of your Father in heaven. For he causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. For if you love those who love you, what reward will you have? Don't even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet only your brothers and sisters, what are you doing out of the ordinary? Don't even the Gentiles do the same? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect.
They weren't born that way. It's just some kind of trauma that people have, from dissatisfaction, disappointment, depression. When you're dissatisfied, when you're depressed, when you're discouraged, there's a distance between your courage and where you are. So your promise is here. You're here in discouragement, and that distance in between is hopelessness.
Hope delayed makes the heart sick, but desire fulfilled is a tree of life.
So God will help us close the distance. Now we have courage to pursue the promise.
This is what the Lord says. Cursed is the person who trusts in mankind. He makes human flesh his strength, and his heart turns from the Lord. He will be like a juniper in the Arabah. He cannot see when good comes, but dwells in the parched places in the wilderness, in a salt land where no one lives. The person who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence indeed is the Lord, is blessed. He will be like a tree planted by water. It sends its roots out toward a stream. It doesn't fear when heat comes, and its foliage remains green. It will not worry in a year of drought, or cease producing fruit.
So that distance in between is hopelessness, and a lot of people suffer with that. It may be for some secret sin, it may be from something that happened in their childhood, it may be from, it can be anything. But the fact of the matter is, hope deferred makes the heart grow sick, but the desire fulfilled is the tree of life. So God will put these people in your proximity to show you what I'm going to do next, because they've already fought the battles. That's biblical. So God will put these people in your proximity to show you what I'm going to do next, because they've already fought the battles. That's biblical. So I was in my business. I own a moving company. And I was in this $12 million house. I've never, ever seen a house like this. Never seen a house like this. Never seen the design. I'm talking about, this thing was laid, but it was very interesting. Like the designs and the patterns, they were all different. They contrasted, and then some matched in just the location. It was a beautiful home. I'm talking about $12 million house. And that's when God started speaking to me about this. This word has been developing over the past few months, but God started speaking to me. I have a place for you. I have a place for you. In my Father's house, there are many rooms. Now, if you take a look at this place, I actually started recording it when God started speaking to me because I knew in the future he was going to have me do a video on it. That's what God does to me because I'm a visual learner. And I learned that my environment as a seer. But this place was laid, y'all. I'm talking about the design, the location, right on the water. It was amazing. It was amazing. And here I am, ex-drug dealer, ex-felon, failure, dropped out of college, dropped out of high school, divorce, been through depression, been through addiction, been through all these things. And I see myself here standing in this $12 million house. I said, my God. He said, I prepared a place for you. I prepared a place for you. There's a place for you. The last will be first and the first will be last.
Your own eyes have seen every great work the Lord has done. Keep every command I am giving you today, so that you may have the strength to cross into and possess the land you are to inherit, and so that you may live long in the land the Lord swore to your ancestors to give them and their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land you are entering to possess is not like the land of Egypt, from which you have come, where you sowed your seed and irrigated by hand as in a vegetable garden. But the land you are entering to possess is a land of mountains and valleys, watered by rain from the sky. It is a land the Lord your God cares for. He is always watching over it from the beginning to the end of the year.
The last will be first, and the first will be last. Those who exalt themselves will be humble, and those who humble themselves will be exalted.
He told a parable to those who were invited when he noticed how they would choose the best places for themselves. When you are invited by someone to a wedding banquet, don't sit at the place of honor, because a more distinguished person than you may have been invited by your host. The one who invited both of you may come and say to you, "Give your place to this man," and then in humiliation, you will proceed to take the lowest place. But when you are invited, go and sit in the lowest place, so that when the one who invited you comes, he will say to you, "Friend, move up higher." You will then be honored in the presence of all the other guests. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and the one who humbles himself will be exalted.
God is using the foolish things of the world to confound the wise in this season. People who have created titles for themselves. They weren't sent by God, but they went under their own power. People who think that they've arrived and they can't learn from anybody else. Those who have climbed their way to the top and stepped on other people. Those who've taken advantage of their position and thought that they can control everybody. The gatekeepers who think that you have to go through them to be blessed by God, when the only door is Jesus. See, any true disciple.
Truly I tell you, the one who believes in me will also do the works that I do, and he will do even greater works than these, because I am going to the Father.
Any true apostle or true teacher or good shepherd is going to want you to do better than them. They're not going to be upset when you prosper. They're not going to get upset when God is using you.
David and his men went out and killed 200 Philistines. He brought their foreskins and presented them as full payment to the king to become his son-in-law. Then Saul gave his daughter Michal to David as his wife. Saul realized that the Lord was with David, and that his daughter Michal loved him, and he became even more afraid of David. As a result, Saul was David's enemy from then on. Every time the Philistine commanders came out to fight, David was more successful than all of Saul's officers, so his name became well known. Saul ordered his son Jonathan and all his servants to kill David. But Saul's son Jonathan liked David very much, so he told him, "My father, Saul, intends to kill you. Be on your guard in the morning and hide in a secret place and stay there."
Jesus said, "You'll do things that I am doing and even greater." His goal when he came was to shape, mold us, prepare us, prune us, purify us, anoint us, and send us on our way so we do greater than him. But when you see these self-titled apostles and people who think that you have to go through them to be used by God. That's religion.
Then Jesus spoke to the crowds and to his disciples. The scribes and the Pharisees are seated in the chair of Moses. Therefore do whatever they tell you, and observe it. But don't do what they do, because they don't practice what they teach. They tie up heavy loads that are hard to carry, and put them on people's shoulders, but they themselves aren't willing to lift a finger to move them. They do everything to be seen by others. They enlarge their phylacteries and lengthen their tassels. They love the place of honor at banquets, the front seats in the synagogues, greetings in the marketplaces, and to be called rabbi by people. But you are not to be called rabbi, because you have one teacher, and you are all brothers and sisters. Do not call anyone on earth your father, because you have one Father who is in heaven. You are not to be called instructors either, because you have one instructor, the Messiah. The greatest among you will be your servant. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. For you don't go in, and you don't allow those entering to go in. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! You travel over land and sea to make one convert, and when he becomes one, you make him twice as fit for hell as you are.
And what's happening in this season is God is lowering the King Sauls, and he's raising up the good shepherds, and it's upsetting the status quo. So if you're experiencing warfare on that front, God is about to bless you.
One day, as he was teaching the people in the temple and proclaiming the good news, the chief priests and the scribes, with the elders, came and said to him, "Tell us, by what authority are you doing these things? Who is it who gave you this authority?" He answered them, "I will also ask you a question. Tell me, was the baptism of John from heaven or of human origin?" They discussed it among themselves. If we say, "From heaven," he will say, "Why didn't you believe him?" But if we say, "Of human origin," all the people will stone us, because they are convinced that John was a prophet. So they answered that they did not know its origin. And Jesus said to them, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things." Now he began to tell the people this parable. A man planted a vineyard, leased it to tenant farmers, and went away for a long time. At harvest time he sent a servant to the farmers, so that they might give him some fruit from the vineyard. But the farmers beat him, and sent him away empty-handed. He sent yet another servant, but they beat that one too, treated him shamefully, and sent him away empty-handed. And he sent yet a third, but they wounded this one too, and threw him out. Then the owner of the vineyard said, "What should I do? I will send my beloved son. Perhaps they will respect him." But when the tenant farmers saw him, they discussed it among themselves and said, "This is the heir. Let's kill him, so that the inheritance will be ours." So they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. What then will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and kill those farmers and give the vineyard to others. But when they heard this, they said, "That must never happen." But he looked at them and said, "Then what is the meaning of this scripture? The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Everyone who falls on that stone will be broken to pieces, but on whomever it falls, it will shatter him." Then the scribes and the chief priests looked for a way to get their hands on him that very hour, because they knew he had told this parable against them, but they feared the people. They watched closely and sent spies who pretended to be righteous, so that they could catch him in what he said, to hand him over to the governor's rule and authority. They questioned him, "Teacher, we know that you speak and teach correctly, and you don't show partiality, but teach truthfully the way of God. Is it lawful for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not?" But detecting their craftiness, he said to them, "Show me a denarius. Whose image and inscription does it have?" "Caesar's," they said. "Well then," he told them, Give to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." They were not able to catch him in what he said in public, and being amazed at his answer, they became silent.
It happened to Jesus, it's going to happen to us. So don't be discouraged by that. Look to your warfare, like I said, and it's going to tell you where you're going next. So if somebody's trying to keep you down, that means that God is taking you up. See that? The thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy, but I came so they may have life and life more abundantly. John 10:10. But the last will be first, and the first will be last. Those who humble themselves will be exalted.
Then she cried, "Samson, the Philistines are here." When he awoke from his sleep, he said, "I will escape as I did before and shake myself free." But he did not know that the Lord had left him.
Those who have exalted themselves, they don't even realize that the glory has left them. Like I said, this word was developing over the course of 3 months, and I've actually seen this playing out in my own life. The higher God takes me and the more roles that I book, the higher those pay rates go, the higher those positions go in the rooms that I'm in with these people. I'm in rooms sometimes, I can't tell any names because of confidentiality, but I'm in rooms with people who changed the world, and I'm looking around like, man, how did I get here? But they see the nature and the character of Christ, and they see something different. A lot of people out here in Hollywood have been hurt by religion. So when you mention Jesus or you start talking about faith, they automatically go back to that experience. A lot of them are Catholicism and things like that. But God places me in a room with these celebrities and these very, very wealthy people. I'm talking about $20 million houses, $15 million houses. They can miss $1 million and not even notice. But God can't trust anybody in those environments.
Now he said to the disciples, "There was a rich man who received an accusation that his manager was squandering his possessions. So he called the manager in and asked, 'What is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you can no longer be my manager.' Then the manager said to himself, 'What will I do since my master is taking the management away from me? I'm not strong enough to dig. I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I'll do, so that when I'm removed from management, people will welcome me into their homes.' So he summoned each one of his master's debtors. 'How much do you owe my master?' he asked the first one. 100 measures of olive oil,' he said. 'Take your invoice,' he told him. 'Sit down quickly and write 50. Next he asked another, 'How much do you owe?' 100 measures of wheat,' he said. 'Take your invoice,' he told him, and write 80. The master praised the unrighteous manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the children of this age are more shrewd than the children of light in dealing with their own people. And I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of worldly wealth, so that when it fails, they may welcome you into eternal dwellings. Whoever is faithful in very little is also faithful in much, and whoever is unrighteous in very little is also unrighteous in much. So if you have not been faithful with worldly wealth, who will trust you with what is genuine? And if you have not been faithful with what belongs to someone else, who will give you what is your own? No servant can serve 2 masters, since either he will hate one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." The Pharisees, who were lovers of money, were listening to all these things and scoffing at him. And he told them, "You are the ones who justify yourselves in the sight of others, but God knows your hearts. For what is highly admired by people is revolting in God's sight."
Especially hirelings and people who are looking for a way to come up off of God and line their pockets, because you'll try to suck money out of them and use them, so he can't trust everybody in places like that. But that's beside the point. Let me continue on. The last will be first, and the first will be last. So I was in the airport. This happened about 5 months ago. And you know how everybody lines up at the gate when you're ready to board the plane, and everybody's pushing and shoving. They want to get on first. They want to get the first seat. they're fighting for the gate. They're standing up. Plane doesn't load for another hour, and there's people standing in an hour just so they can be first. God started speaking to me. He said, no, I always do this. I always hang back in the back. Even when I play football and everybody's hyping, ready to go out, we about to start the game, I would hang back and let everybody do their thing, and I would just jog out slowly. I was in no rush to be seen or to get on the field first. I was going to get on there. When I got my chance, I'm going to do my thing. I don't want to be first. That's not my desire. But anyways, when I'm taking a flight, when everybody lines up at the gate and everybody wants to get on first, I just hang back. Even if my group is like A, I'll hang back with C or D, because I don't do crowds. Because I'm a feeler and I'm a seer. So when I get in a crowd, I feel a lot, and it gets heavy because I can feel people's stuff they're dealing with, or their hurt, their trauma, or whatever. I start seeing things. So I hang back in the back, and I got a ticket. I know I'm going. I got a ticket. So I don't need to push and shove. I'm going. I'm going to get to my destination. But anyways, God said the last will be first and the first will be last. So I was getting on the plane, going back east. And all of a sudden, the lady got on the intercom, and she said, okay, the plane is boarding. She stopped the line where everybody was crowding, and she pointed at me and said, you come this way. So everybody who was pushing and shoving got stopped. And then everybody who was waiting patiently at the back, she called us forward, took us around them outside in the gate, and we loaded on the tarmac from the back of the plane and got on before they did. And then they started boarding. They went like up to these stairs, and they got stopped at the door even. And all of them was watching us walk around, and we boarded first on the back of the plane. The last will be first and the first will be last. And God started speaking to me about this. God wasn't done. So did the TV show, came home, and same thing happened. You know how when you about to get off a flight, everybody stands up before planes start moving. The stewardess have to say, no, keep your seatbelt on, you're gonna get off. Everybody wants to get up, they'll get in the aisle, they'll stand right in the aisle, where now you can't even get up, and it was your turn. They'll come from the back of the plane to the front, stand in front of you, and then you can't go when you were supposed to go. But God said, no, just be patient. He was teaching me something. I wait on the plane until everybody gets off. I'm not in a rush. I've arrived at my destination, going to get my luggage. I made it. I say bye to the stewardess. Thank you for your hospitality. Thanks for giving us drinks, whatever. Have a good day. But this time, I stayed seated. He said, just stay there. Everybody crowded the aisleway. I waited, and then the pilot actually got on the intercom and said, we're gonna offload today from the back. We're gonna offload today from the back. So everybody who crowded the front ended up having to wait, and then everybody who was sitting on the back, because I always sit on the back, and I don't mind going last. We got off first. Now they had to wait and watch us going outside of the plane, going back into the airport, because we were in the back, and we actually got off first. That wasn't it. God went a little further. I love the way God teaches me. You know how everybody crowds the baggage claim? Everybody try to stand where they think the baggage is going, and they all cluster at one little area, like they're going to get theirs first. Always stay back. I know my baggage is on the plane. It better be on the plane. My baggage is on the plane. I'm going to get it. When I get it, it is what it is. I'm not going to stand around and fight people for my baggage. Well, he said, you know what? He said, go to the other side. And everybody was kind of crowded. I recorded all this, by the way, because he was teaching me in the moment, and I knew it was going to be used for a later day. So I went all the way to the back of the carousel, and everybody was still crowding around. My luggage was the first luggage that came off, passed all of them by, and came all the way to me, and I got my luggage first off the back of the plane. And God said the last will be first and the first will be last. You're in process. You're in process. You've been prepared for such a time as this. God is sending us out into that harvest. The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. There's not a lot of people who truly believe in the gospel. There's not a lot of people who truly believe in the promises, but you went through that process and you said yes. You're about to be positioned on one of those 7 mountains of society to make an impact in the harvest. God is looking for doers. People have been talking, you can preach the Bible, you can say all these things, you can talk about glory and this and that, but those, the wheat and the tares, are actually being separated.
Still other seed fell on good ground and produced fruit, some 100, some 60, and some 30 times what was sown. Let anyone who has ears listen. Then the disciples came up and asked him, "Why are you speaking to them in parables?" He answered, "Because the secrets of the kingdom of heaven have been given for you to know, but it has not been given to them. For whoever has, more will be given to him, and he will have more than enough. But whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken away from him. That is why I speak to them in parables. Because looking they do not see, and hearing they do not listen or understand. Isaiah's prophecy is fulfilled in them, which says, 'You will listen and listen, but never understand. You will look and look, but never perceive. For this people's heart has grown callous. Their ears are hard of hearing, and they have shut their eyes. Otherwise they might see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their hearts, and turn back, and I would heal them. Blessed are your eyes because they do see, and your ears because they do hear. For truly I tell you, many prophets and righteous people long to see the things you see, but didn't see them, to hear the things you hear, but didn't hear them.' So listen to the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word about the kingdom and doesn't understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. This is the one sown along the path. And the one sown on rocky ground, this is one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. But he has no root and is short-lived. When distress or persecution comes because of the word, immediately he falls away. Now the one sown among the thorns, this is one who hears the word, but the worries of this age and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, and it becomes unfruitful. But the one sown on the good ground, this is one who hears and understands the word, who does produce fruit and yields some 100, some 60, some 30 times what was sown." He presented another parable to them. The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while people were sleeping, his enemy came, sowed weeds among the wheat, and left. When the plant sprouted and produced grain, then the weeds also appeared. The landowner's servants came to him and said, "Master, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Then where did the weeds come from?" "An enemy did this," he told them. "So do you want us to go and pull them up?" the servants asked him. "No," he said. "When you pull up the weeds, you might also uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. At harvest time I'll tell the reapers, 'Gather the weeds first and tie them in bundles to burn them, but collect the wheat in my barn.'"
Matthew chapter 10, verses 34 through 36 in the Amplified Bible says, "Do not think that I have come to bring peace on the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword of division between belief and unbelief. For I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's enemies will be the members of his own household, when one believes and another does not." And those who produce fruit, who say yes, who've gone through the process, didn't take a shortcut, didn't sin themselves, didn't prosper themselves, those are the ones being used in this season, and that's you. That's why you made it this far through this video, because that's you and you can relate. The last will be first and the first will be last. God has prepared a place for you.
"For I know the plans I have for you." This is the Lord's declaration. Plans for your well-being, not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope.
This is why process is so important. This is why it's important that we see spiritually when we're going through it. Maybe you are in a place where you say, "God, this doesn't look like the promise. This is not what you told me. This is not what this is not what the vision looked like." You think Joseph seen everything that happened to him before the promise came? You think David, seeing everything he will go through, the way his brothers rejected him and denied him, lied on him. No, the process doesn't look like the promise. Process comes before the promise. So we go through these things that it doesn't often look like what God said, but pay attention to your surroundings. What are you doing? Go through your emails. Look at the people around you. Look at the jobs you're booking. Look at the customers you're working with. Look at the people who are coming into your shop. Look at the customers you're helping. Wherever it is, wherever you're serving faithfully, faithfulness, small things can be entrusted with much. Look where you are serving. The spirit of excellence has to be developed first before excellence can be used. It has to be formed in us first before it can be expressed outwardly.
Do you see a person skilled in his work? He will stand in the presence of kings. He will not stand in the presence of the unknown.
See, the Bible is clear. Your talents and your gifts, they make room for you. The Bible also says, show me a man who is excellent at his work. He'll serve before high-ranking officials. He won't serve before a lowly man. Now, that doesn't mean a person is looking for these positions. That means we do all things as we're doing them unto the Lord. That's the spirit of excellence. And people in the world, in these places, I call them kings of the earth, kings of the kingdom and kings of the earth. The kings of the world, the people who are the millionaires that own businesses, they're not going to pay for anything less than excellence. So when they see the excellence in you, which is the character of Christ, and you get in their proximity and they start seeing that, they're going to want you to serve for them first, like Joseph, and then you're going to serve beside them. They're going to say, man, they'd be good for my company. Man, I think I want to give them some contracts. I was in a house, what was this, last week? There was a big director. I'm talking about multiple houses. I've been in a few of them. I happened to see him that day, and I was doing my thing, doing my job, and he stopped me. He was in the pool. This is 12 o'clock at midday. He's chilling in the pool, and I'm working. I don't mind. I was just glad to be where I was. I'm enjoying the scenery. Listen to God speak. There's a place for you. He looked at me. He said, hey, you come highly recommended. You know, his assistant, I've worked with her. I acquired the contract through her. She said, you come very highly, he said, you come very highly recommended. And every time I walked by, he would look at me and smile. He was seeing the nature of God. He was seeing the light of Christ. Sometimes people of the world don't understand what they're seeing. They think that it's us. But as we get to know them and they get to learn our faith, they'll say, oh, he's a Christian. That's what it's for. Let your light shine before men, and your Father will get the glory in heaven. See, that's why these people are upset with you. People get upset when they see people take to you well, and people don't take to them well. They'll get mad. That's why they try to kill you, because there's no oil without crushing. There's no oil without, there's no wine without pressing. And even Paul said this. Paul was a real apostle. He went through it in order to gain them stripes. He said, look at the stripes on my back. And then he went on to name all of the things that he'd been through.
Now I consider myself in no way inferior to those super apostles. Even if I am untrained in public speaking, I am certainly not untrained in knowledge. Indeed, we have in every way made that clear to you in everything. Or did I commit a sin by humbling myself so that you might be exalted, because I preached the gospel of God to you free of charge? I robbed other churches by taking pay from them to minister to you. When I was present with you and in need, I did not burden anyone, since the brothers who came from Macedonia supplied my needs. I have kept myself and will keep myself from burdening you in any way. As the truth of Christ is in me, this boasting of mine will not be stopped in the regions of Achaia. Why? Because I don't love you? God knows I do. But I will continue to do what I'm doing in order to deny an opportunity to those who want to be regarded as our equals in what they boast about. For such people are false apostles, deceitful workers, disguising themselves as apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. So it is no great surprise if his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness. Their end will be according to their works. I repeat, let no one consider me a fool. But if you do, at least accept me as a fool, so that I can also boast a little. What I am saying in this matter of boasting, I don't speak as the Lord would, but as it were, foolishly. Since many boast according to the flesh, I will also boast. For you, being so wise, gladly put up with fools. In fact, you put up with it if someone enslaves you, if someone exploits you, if someone takes advantage of you, if someone is arrogant toward you, if someone slaps you in the face. I say this to our shame. We have been too weak for that. But in whatever anyone dares to boast, I am talking foolishly, I also dare. Are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they the descendants of Abraham? So am I. Are they servants of Christ? I'm talking like a madman. I'm a better one, with far more labors, many more imprisonments, far worse beatings, many times near death. 5 times I received the 40 lashes minus 1 from the Jews. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I received a stoning. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I have spent a night and a day in the open sea. On frequent journeys I faced dangers from rivers, dangers from robbers, dangers from my own people, dangers from Gentiles, dangers in the city, dangers in the wilderness, dangers at sea, and dangers among false brothers. Toil and hardship, many sleepless nights, hunger and thirst, often without food, cold, and without clothing. Not to mention other things, there's the daily pressure on me, my concern for all the churches. Who is weak, and I am not weak? Who is made to stumble, and I do not burn with indignation? If boasting is necessary, I will boast about my weaknesses.
Now, he was qualified. See, God qualifies the call. He doesn't call the qualified. So people who think that they're qualified and they arrive and they give themselves these titles and these names, these grandiose names, they've done that to themselves. Paul was a Pharisee. He knew that Bible in and out. But God didn't call him until he was humble. And he let all of that go. He went through a process.
A person's gift opens doors for him and brings him before the great.
That's part of the process. That's part of it. I remember moving out here and saying, man, I didn't move out here to start a business. I came out here, God, because you showed me I was going to be in Hollywood. Now that I've been working my business for 4 years, all the people I met, places I've been, and opportunities that came out of it, without it, I wouldn't have had the same knowledge, work ethic. I wouldn't have learned the things about myself that needed to be fixed. I wouldn't have learned how to deal with multiple people. I wouldn't have had the management skills to manage my own business from the ground up. I would have had none of those skills. People who skip the process never last. Shortcuts are the long way around. The people in your environment, the people he's connected you with, what you're seeing around you, pay attention to the details. Your footsteps are ordered. Those people around you who are doing exactly what you have a desire to do, God put them there so you can get a preview. Hang in there. It's about to happen quickly. It's happening in my life. I'm not special. I'm not any more anointed than anybody else. I just said yes to both the process and the promise. There is a place for you.
Your blessing, the one I have tailor-made for you, lies beyond the confines of man-made religion. It dances outside the lines they have drawn, the rigid boxes they try to fit you in. Do not be swayed by their judgmental glances or their attempts to confine you. Remember, even Paul, my faithful servant, disregarded the opinions of men. He understood that their approval was insignificant compared to mine. Trust in my guidance, for it is perfect and unwavering. Silence the voices that try to mold you in their image. They may mean well, but their limited understanding cannot grasp the grand design I have for your life. There is only one voice that matters, mine. Listen intently for my words released down inside your inner man. Surely do hold the key to unlocking your destiny. Obey what I show you, even if it seems unconventional, or defies human logic. My ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts are higher than your thoughts. When you align yourself with my will, you step into the realm of divine acceleration. Breakthroughs you thought were impossible will suddenly manifest before your very eyes. The tomorrow you longed for, the one that seemed forever out of reach, will become your reality. Step out of the shadows of man's limited thinking and into the radiant light of my presence. Embrace the unique path I have carved out for you. Listen to my voice, obey my commands, and watch as I propel you into a future filled with blessings beyond measure.
God bless you. Have a wonderful day.